It's nice when that can happen, because a lot of times when we go, it's not quite what we expected.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be people that take the opposite notion of what happened there, but it's nice when it happens that way.
Kevin Costner has never been afraid of taking risks. But few moments define his career like Dances with Wolves. More than 30 years later, the actor-director has revealed a behind-the-scenes secret about one of the film's most iconic sequences: the breathtaking buffalo hunt.
I tell you, I remember when we got these wolves, there were real wolves, and I don't know, you ever think of like salesmen who like, carpet thing?
So, what light has he shed on the challenges, chaos, and sheer determination that helped turn the movie into a cinematic masterpiece? And how did this affect him? Join us as Kevin Costner finally reveals what most fans never figured out about Dancing with Wolves. Kevin Costner reveals the one scene he will never forget. Kevin Costner has always been one of Hollywood's quiet giants, steady, principled, and deeply authentic. Unlike the loud, attention-grabbing personas that dominate the industry, Costner carries himself with a thoughtful, almost reserved charm. He's more of a storyteller than a celebrity, a man who prefers to let the work speak for itself. That independence has defined his career, whether it was the risky decision to produce Dances with Wolves in 1990 or the bold gamble of pouring his own money into his latest Western epic, Horizon. But recently, Costner peeled back the curtain on a secret most fans never realized about his Academy Award-winning directorial debut, a revelation tied to one of its most unforgettable moments. In a reflection on his career with GQ, Costner recalled what remains, even 3 decades later, the most challenging and exhilarating sequence he has ever filmed: the buffalo hunt in Dances with Wolves. Though Costner has appeared in dozens of films, from sports dramas like Field of Dreams to thrillers like No Way Out, he admits nothing else compares to the intensity of bringing that Western spectacle to life. Dances with Wolves wasn't just a milestone for Costner, it was a defining moment for Hollywood. The film grossed an astonishing $442 million worldwide, sweeping the Oscars with 7 wins, including Best Picture and a Best Director award for Costner himself. It was proof that his instincts to pursue sprawling, character-driven Western stories weren't misplaced. Yet, behind its success lay a production hurdle that seemed nearly impossible: capturing an authentic buffalo hunt on camera. Costner described the ordeal with equal parts humor and awe. The sequence required 6 full days of filming, complete with horses, trucks, a helicopter, and a herd of 3,500 buffalo. But the first challenge was even finding the animals. "Well, I'll tell you what was uncertain," Costner recalled. "Were we even going to be able to find the buffalo? And we finally did in the middle of South Dakota." That discovery led to an unexpected negotiation. The herd belonged to a rancher, who also happened to be the former lieutenant governor of South Dakota. Convincing him to let a Hollywood crew chase his buffalo was no small task. He said, "You want to chase my buffalo?" Costner laughed, recalling his youthful enthusiasm. Eventually, the man agreed, saying, "Okay, we'll chase them, we'll chase them." Costner deeply admired the man, who was around 80 years old at the time. The man got in his truck, accompanied by 5 other trucks and a helicopter, and they started chasing the buffalo for 6 days. What emerged from that chaos was one of cinema's most breathtaking sequences, a moment that cemented Dances with Wolves as both a critical and cultural triumph. It remains a testament to Costner's determination to pursue authenticity, even when it meant orchestrating a logistical nightmare involving thousands of pounds of unpredictable animals. The buffalo hunt helped elevate the film from a modest gamble to a sweeping triumph. Now, decades later, audiences had waited with curiosity to see whether Costner can match that magic with Horizon, an American saga. Just as he once did with Dances with Wolves, he's taking risks few others would dare. But has Horizon been able to deliver another cinematic moment as unforgettable as the Great Buffalo Hunt? Let's find out. Not afraid to push boundaries with his movies. Kevin Costner has never been afraid of chasing cinematic dreams that others might dismiss as too risky or too vast to pull off. In 2024, he had taken another enormous gamble with Horizon, an American saga, a project that may ultimately be remembered as his boldest swing yet, or his most costly misstep. Unlike a traditional Hollywood release, Horizon was envisioned as a 4-part epic, each chapter unfolding across 15 years of history, spanning both pre- and post-Civil War America. Horizon's first chapter, co-written, directed, and produced by, as well as starring Costner, captures the scope of westward expansion, the struggles of settlers, and the conflicts with indigenous peoples. It's a saga as expansive as the land it portrays, and Costner has made no secret of the fact that this isn't just another movie for him. It's a personal passion project. In fact, he invested tens of millions of his own fortune to bring the series to life, a decision that raised eyebrows even among his supporters. Chapter 1 premiered out of competition at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, where the reception was, fittingly, a mixed bag. On one hand, Costner received a standing ovation, a moment Cannes is known for when it admires the scale and effort behind a work. On the other hand, critics were divided. Some hailed the film as a grand, sweeping return to the epic Western, a kind of cinematic storytelling that Hollywood rarely attempts anymore. Others, however, were less forgiving, calling it bloated, uneven, and perhaps too indulgent in its pacing. The New York Times praised Costner's unwavering devotion to the mythology of the American West, while Variety questioned whether modern audiences had the patience for a 4-part Western saga in an era dominated by fast-paced franchises. Despite the critiques, one thing was undeniable. Costner had succeeded in putting Westerns back into the cultural conversation. Social media buzzed with debates about whether Horizon was destined to become a cult favorite, a prestige misfire, or perhaps something in between. Fans of Yellowstone, Costner's hit TV series, showed strong interest, while general audiences seemed more cautious, unsure if they were ready to commit to a sprawling 4-film journey. The cast of Horizon is equally ambitious. Alongside Costner himself, the ensemble includes Sienna Miller, Sam Worthington, Luke Wilson, Danny Houston, Gina Malone, Abby Lee, Michael Rooker, and Giovanni Ribisi, among others. Their performances drew praise for grounding the sweeping narrative in humanity, though some critics felt the large ensemble spread the story too thin. Still, few denied the beauty of the cinematography, which painted the American frontier in vast, breathtaking landscapes reminiscent of classic westerns. Beyond the festival circuit, Horizon, an American saga, Chapter 1, released during the crowded summer of 2024. The box office returns were modest compared to the film's massive budget, raising concerns about whether the franchise could financially sustain 4 entries. Chapter 2 followed soon after, maintaining a similar trajectory, admired by some for its ambition, dismissed by others for its length and slow build. By then, Costner had already rolled cameras on Chapter 3, proof of his stubborn confidence in the project. To him, Horizon wasn't just a movie, it was a legacy, something he wanted to leave behind, whether or not the numbers lined up in his favor. As of now, production on Chapter 3 continues, with Chapter 4 planned to close the saga. Whether Horizon will ultimately be remembered as Costner's second Dances with Wolves or as an ambitious gamble that fell short remains to be seen. Kevin Costner has once again proven himself to be a filmmaker who refuses to play it safe. But where did this journey all started from? Let's delve into the beginning of a legendary journey, from small-town dreamer to Hollywood icon. Before he became the rugged patriarch John Dutton on Yellowstone or the Oscar-winning director behind Dances with Wolves, Kevin Costner was simply a boy from California with restless dreams. Born on January 18, 1955, in Linwood, he grew up in nearby Compton, far from the bright lights of Hollywood. His parents, William and Sharon Costner, raised him alongside his two brothers in a modest home. His father worked first as an electrician and later as a utilities executive, while his mother held a job as a welfare worker. Their lives were ordinary, but their youngest son was destined for anything but. Costner's roots were a patchwork of European heritage. German immigrants who had settled in North Carolina, mixed with English, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh ancestry. Raised in the Baptist faith, Kevin's childhood wasn't dominated by academics. School never captured his imagination, though he was far from idle. He threw himself into sports, especially football, and nurtured creative pursuits, writing poetry, learning piano, and lending his voice to the church choir. But the spark that would define his life came from a childhood trip to the movies. Watching How the West Was Won lit an ember in him, one that made the sprawling landscapes, rugged cowboys, and untamed spirit of westerns feel like home. Costner's teenage years were marked by constant relocation. His father's work forced the family to move repeatedly across California, uprooting friendships before they had time to bloom. For a shy boy already struggling with confidence, these moves took a toll. Yet, each new town also became a training ground, pushing him to adapt and observe, a skill that would later enrich his acting. At various high schools, Costner dabbled in baseball and nurtured a budding interest in performance. Though he wasn't yet committed to acting, something about embodying characters and entertaining others resonated deeply with him. In 1973, he graduated from high school, still uncertain of his future. He enrolled at California State University, Fullerton, majoring in business. But it was during his final year there that his true calling emerged: acting. Theater workshops and small performances ignited a passion so powerful it eclipsed all other ambitions. In 1978, fate quite literally seated Costner next to destiny. On a return flight from Mexico, he found himself on the same plane as legendary actor Richard Burton. Nervous but determined, the young Costner asked Burton for advice about pursuing acting. Burton, known for both his impressive performances and his equally legendary status, offered encouragement. Follow the passion, but be ready for hardship. That conversation lit a fire in Costner. He returned home with renewed determination, enrolling in acting classes and diving into the craft. To survive, he worked a carousel of odd jobs, everything from truck driving to fishing boats, even giving Hollywood tours to curious tourists. Each day was a balancing act between survival and chasing a dream that still felt impossibly distant. Costner's screen debut came in 1981 with Sizzle Beach, United States of America, a low-budget indie that would resurface years later when he was famous. Though hardly glamorous, it was a start. He followed it up with small roles in Night Shift and Testament. His career gained traction with Silverado in 1985. That film finally gave Costner a role with presence, a charismatic cowboy whose energy commanded attention. Suddenly, casting directors and audiences alike began to take notice. By 1987, Costner had exploded into stardom. He played Prohibition agent Elliot Ness in The Untouchables opposite Sean Connery and then captivated audiences in the political thriller No Way Out. 2 years later, he secured his leading man status with Bull Durham, a witty, romantic baseball drama, and Field of Dreams, the now classic ode to hope, nostalgia, and America's favorite pastime. With his star at its peak, Costner took his boldest risk yet, stepping behind the camera. In 1990, he launched TIG Productions and poured himself into directing and producing Dances with Wolves. What began as a gamble became a triumph. The 1990s cemented Costner as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. He delivered crowd-pleasing adventures like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and iconic romances like The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston. He showed dramatic gravitas in Oliver Stone's JFK and continued his love affair with sports films in Tin Cup. But fame is never without turbulence. The late 90s and early 2000s brought box office disappointments like Waterworld and The Postman. Still, Costner weathered the storm, rebounding with critically praised performances in 13 Days and Open Range. By the 2010s, he reminded audiences of his versatility with the miniseries Hatfields and McCoys, which reintroduced him as a television powerhouse. That momentum carried into his role as John Dutton in Yellowstone, a series that not only revived his career, but also cemented his place in modern pop culture. Kevin Costner's rise to fame wasn't simply a straight line upward. It was a journey marked by uncertainty, grit, and the courage to take risks. Risks that's allowed him to try out different things, even music. But how did his music career turn out? Let's find out. A star in all front. Kevin Costner's career is built on unforgettable roles that have cemented him as a Hollywood legend. But what often gets overlooked is the way he channels his fame into music, sports, and most importantly, philanthropy. From country rock tours that turn into fundraising events, to charitable auctions and heartfelt gestures for causes close to his heart, Costner has used his platform not just to entertain, but also to give back. In 2007, encouraged by his wife Christine, Costner founded Kevin Costner and Modern West, a country rock band that quickly became more than a side project. That October, they kicked off a worldwide tour, playing shows in places as far-reaching as Istanbul and Rome, and later lighting up NASCAR events in Daytona and Charlotte. Music, for Costner, was not just about expression. It became a bridge to connect with audiences on a more personal level. The band released their debut album, Untold Truths, in November 2008. While it peaked modestly at number 61 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart, the project was a reflection of Costner's love for storytelling. Singles like Superman 14 and Backyard didn't chart, but they carried the raw sincerity of a man more focused on connection than numbers. But it was in 2009 that Costner's music intersected directly with charity. Scheduled to perform at the Big Valley Jamboree in Camrose, Alberta, tragedy struck when a thunderstorm caused the stage to collapse. One woman lost her life and dozens injured. Costner didn't shy away from the aftermath. Instead, he leaned in to help. At a benefit auction for the victim's family, a dinner with Costner raised $41,000, and 2 guitars, including one signed by him, each pulled in another $10,000. For the grieving sons of the woman who had lost her life, this generosity was a tangible reminder of hope and community. The band carried on, releasing Turn It On in 2010 and later in 2012, performing at the TELUS World Skins Game in Halifax, Nova Scotia. That show wasn't just entertainment, it raised money for the IWK Health Center Foundation, with Costner donating a signed guitar to the cause. Even his later work with Tales from Yellowstone, inspired by his role as John Dutton, showed his knack for blending art, performance, and philanthropy. If music is one of Costner's passions, baseball is the other. It's a sport he hasn't just portrayed on screen, but embraced in his personal life. From Bull Durham and Field of Dreams to For Love of the Game, Costner's connection to America's pastime is both cinematic and deeply personal. A longtime supporter of college baseball, Costner has maintained close ties to the Texas Longhorns program, where he often attends practices and games. His friendship with legendary coach Augie Garrido began during Garrido's days at Cal State Fullerton, Costner's alma mater, and endured for decades. Costner even cast Garrido as the Yankee manager in For Love of the Game, blending their shared love for the sport with storytelling. Costner has been a regular supporter of the College World Series, frequently traveling to Omaha to cheer on his Titans. Although he once tried out unsuccessfully for the team as a student, the sport has remained a lifelong passion. His baseball philanthropy didn't stop at fandom. He became a part owner of the Lake County Fielders, an independent team in Zion, Illinois. The team's name and branding, complete with a cornfield logo, paid direct homage to Field of Dreams. And in 2021, Costner returned to that iconic imagery in spectacular fashion. At the MLB Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, Iowa, he led the New York Yankees and Chicago White Sox onto the field, delivering a short but poignant speech that reminded fans why baseball remains a timeless thread in American culture. Whether through benefit concerts, fundraising auctions, or lending his voice to meaningful causes, Kevin Costner has consistently used his influence for good. His work extends beyond music and baseball. Over the years, he has supported health initiatives, children's charities, and cultural preservation projects, often without fanfare. What makes his giving unique is that it rarely feels like a calculated move. Instead, it comes across as an extension of who he is, a storyteller who understands the importance of community. For Costner, fame is not just a platform to stand on, but a tool to build with. His guitar has raised money for children's hospitals, his concerts have supported families in need, and his love for baseball has given back to communities that shaped him. In every corner of his career, from Hollywood sets to charity stages, he carries a thorough line of generosity. Kevin Costner will always be remembered for his iconic roles and his commanding presence on screen. But his off-screen contributions paint a fuller picture of the man behind the fame. He is not simply an actor or a musician, but a giver, someone who has taken the blessings of his career and shared them with others. Obviously, Costner also has a bottomless pool of cash to take from. A life beyond Hollywood. When most people think of Kevin Costner, images of epic westerns, baseball fields carved out of corn, or the sprawling Montana ranch of Yellowstone come to mind. Yet Costner's life and career stretch far beyond Hollywood. He is not just an actor and director, but also an entrepreneur, investor, and visionary who has poured his energy into projects ranging from oil cleanup technologies to casinos, cultural landmarks, and even travel storytelling apps. His ventures reflect both his curiosity and his willingness to take risks, some paying off in triumph, others in controversy. Costner's foray into environmental innovation began in 1995 when he purchased a company focused on developing oil separation machines. Built on a United States government patent, the devices were designed to separate oil from water, a concept with little commercial buzz at the time. For years, the machines sat in relative obscurity, dismissed as solutions in search of a problem. That problem tragically arrived in 2010 with the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, one of the worst environmental disasters in history. Suddenly, Costner's long-ignored machines became critical. BP, scrambling for ways to contain the catastrophe, tested 6 of the devices from Costner's company, Ocean Therapy Solutions, in May of that year. A month later, BP agreed to lease 32 machines, signaling a turning point for the venture. But success brought friction. Former investors Spyron Contiguris and actor Stephen Baldwin had sold their stakes just before BP's commitment. They alleged that Costner kept a pivotal meeting with BP secret, one that secured an $18 million down payment on what would eventually be a $52 million purchase agreement. Claiming securities fraud and misrepresentation, Baldwin and Contiguris argued they were misled into selling too soon. The courtroom drama unfolded in Louisiana in 2012. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, a federal jury rejected their claims, siding with Costner and his partners. The court even ordered Baldwin and Contiguris to cover legal costs. Costner had not only invested in an overlooked technology, but had also defended it successfully against a storm of litigation. Costner's entrepreneurial spirit isn't limited to business. It also extends to cultural preservation. On June 6, 2004, he unveiled Tatanka, Story of the Bison, a $5 million educational center in South Dakota. His vision was clear: to create a place where visitors could learn about the westward expansion of America and the sacred role of bison in Native American life. The centerpiece of Tatanka is Breathtaking. Commissioned by Costner in 1994, artist Peggy Detmers sculpted a dramatic bronze installation capturing a buffalo jump, a traditional hunting practice of the Plains Indians. The scene includes 14 bronze bison in full stampede, 3 suspended in midair as they plunge over a cliff, chased by 3 Lakota riders on horseback. Each piece is monumental, weighing between 2,500 and 8,000 pounds, and cast at the Eagle Bronze Foundry in Wyoming. Alongside the sculpture, the center features interactive exhibits, a theater, retail shops, and dining areas, blending education with cultural experience. For Costner, Tatanka was not about profit, but about storytelling and honoring a chapter of history too often simplified or forgotten. While Tatanka looked to the past, Costner also invested in ventures of entertainment and hospitality. In 1991, he opened the Midnight Star Casino and Restaurant in Deadwood, South Dakota, hiring Francis and Carla Caneva to manage operations. The couple not only ran the casino, but also held a modest ownership stake. By 2004, tensions emerged. Costner ended their employment and offered to part ways amicably, but when they refused, the partnership dissolved. The Canevas sued, seeking to double the valuation of their shares. Though they initially won in a lower court, the South Dakota Supreme Court ultimately sided with Costner. Despite the legal dust-ups, the Midnight Star remained a fixture until its closure in 2017. Costner later sold it in 2020, marking the end of his casino chapter. In true Costner fashion, his next venture looked ahead. In 2020, he co-founded Here Here, a subscription-based iPhone app designed for travelers. The app provides narrated stories about landmarks, towns, and histories encountered during road trips across the United States. Costner serves as both a co-founder and narrator, lending his voice to tales that enrich the journey. For a man who has built his career on storytelling, Here Here was a natural extension, transforming highways into immersive classrooms. Costner's commitment to cultural memory also extends to honoring veterans. He serves on the honorary board of the National World War I Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. In 2011, he recorded radio spots for the museum, aired on the Kansas City Royals radio network, helping to raise awareness about the sacrifices of a generation that often fades from popular conversation. Wealth as vast as the prairie. Kevin Costner is one of those rare Hollywood figures who manages to blend his artistic achievements with a lifestyle of almost mythic wealth and stature. In February 2007, Kevin Costner shifted gears, literally, and stepped into the fast-paced world of stock car racing. He was named ceremonial Grand Marshal of the NASCAR Cup Series Auto Club 500, a high-octane event at the California Speedway. Fans who typically knew him as the rugged cowboy or the stoic hero of films suddenly saw him waving the green flag, part of a different kind of American spectacle. His relationship with NASCAR didn't end there. In 2008, Costner partnered with the NASCAR Media Group and CMT Films to co-produce The Ride of Their Lives, a documentary celebrating the sport's history and cultural roots. Released in December of that year, the project wasn't just another Hollywood attachment, it was something Costner personally narrated, lending his unmistakable voice to a story of passion, risk, and speed. By 2009, he was more than just a guest of honor. He had become a true ambassador for the sport, even serving as the official spokesman for NASCAR Day on May 15. The following day, Costner blended two of his worlds, film and music, when he performed with his country rock band at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That weekend, he even sat as a judge in the second annual Victory Challenge, moments before the 25th running of the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race. It was an unusual chapter in his career, but it showed the breadth of Costner's influence. An actor, musician, and sports enthusiast who seamlessly crossed cultural boundaries. Beyond the racetrack and movie sets, Costner also turned to the literary world. In 2015, he co-authored The Explorers Guild, A Passage to Shambhala, a hybrid between a traditional adventure novel and a graphic novel. Collaborating with John Baird, researcher Stephen C. Meyer, and illustrator Rick Ross, the work reflected his appetite for epic storytelling, a trait already familiar to his fans. His wisdom and experience have also been sought by others. Tim Ferriss, known for his best-selling Tools of Titans, invited Costner to contribute a chapter. In it, the actor offered advice drawn from his decades of navigating Hollywood, business, and personal challenges. It was further proof that Costner was more than just a performer. He was a thinker, a strategist, and a mentor of sorts. Of course, Kevin Costner's career accomplishments have translated into extraordinary wealth. Few actors from the late 80s and 90s sustained the level of stardom he enjoyed, and even fewer managed to parlay that into enduring financial prosperity. His estimated net worth is reportedly around $250 million, placing him among Hollywood's wealthiest icons. Costner's real estate portfolio alone could fill a glossy magazine spread. His most famous property might be his Aspen estate, a breathtaking mountain retreat that rents for more than $36,000 per night. Guests can stay in the lap of luxury, surrounded by panoramic views that belong more to fantasy than reality. Then there's his 10-acre beachfront estate in Carpinteria, California, worth an estimated $145 million, a property so impressive it has become almost legendary in real estate circles. Add to that his baseball field, multiple Ventura residences, and other Los Angeles holdings, and you have a collection of assets that feels more like an empire than a personal portfolio. Costner's career is decorated with honors. He's an Academy Award winner for both Best Director and Best Picture, as well as a Golden Globe and an Emmy winner for acting. His projects, ranging from Field of Dreams and The Bodyguard to the modern juggernaut Yellowstone, have not only cemented his place in pop culture, but also contributed massively to his wealth. The accolades matter, but so does the cultural resonance. Costner has always seemed drawn to roles that embody a kind of timeless American spirit. The farmer who builds a baseball field in the middle of nowhere, the soldier who seeks peace with native tribes, or the rancher fighting to preserve his land in Yellowstone. These stories reflect his own life's narrative, rooted in tradition, larger than life, and rich with meaning. What emerges from these ventures is a portrait of Kevin Costner as more than a Hollywood star. He is a risk-taker, willing to invest millions in machines dismissed as impractical, only for them to find purpose during a global crisis. He is a cultural advocate, preserving the story of America's expansion and the lives of native peoples through art. He is a businessman, navigating casinos and legal battles with resilience. And he is a modern storyteller, finding ways to blend technology with narrative on platforms like Here. Costner's career may be defined by the films we know and love, but his ventures outside of cinema reveal a man driven not just by fame or fortune, but by vision. Whether in bronze sculptures, courtroom dramas, or the voice guiding you along a forgotten highway, Kevin Costner continues to write stories, some on screen and others in the world around us. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also check out another interesting video by clicking on the video shown on your screen. See you on the other side.